Hello, everyone. Today is September 20th, 2024, and today we're doing a class called Wiki Classes Append jQuery. We're talking about jQuery, and as you may know, I always make the titles a little bit fun, so today's title is a little bit fun. Today's class is called jQuery, and I've made it all lowercase, so it's not the actual object and name of the library jQuery, which is the thing that exists. jQuery is the element of today's class, and we are appending it to the list of wiki classes so far. So this is a valid jQuery statement that describes what we're doing today. So it's very meta and very exciting, and a little bit suspect because I'm mimicking the name J capital Q jQuery, which is not something that you would be able to call an HTML element because that's the actual name of the jQuery library, and it's an actual object that exists. So it's a super fun title. We've got a great title. We're off to a fantastic start. So today we're working on the ATLYSS wiki. The ATLYSS wiki just launched yesterday. I asked them to launch early so that I could do this event today, and they helped me out with that and launched early. And the front page, this is some CSS that I added. The front page doesn't actually look like that. That's my custom global CSS. But this is the ATLYSS wiki, and the thing that we're doing is already live because I pre-wrote all of the code, and I'm going to delete it and then start over. I'm not going to delete it. I don't know. I'll delete it and then start over something. I need to make it available to myself on another monitor. But anyway, this is what we're doing. And it didn't work. Oh, probably because I hadn't reloaded the tab. Okay, so let me refresh again. You'll notice this flash over here that let me do it one more time. So it starts out not selected and then it becomes selected, whereas the front one is just, well, I guess it happens as the front one too. As it's loading, fine. The selected class doesn't start out here. I'm adding that with JavaScript later on because this is Druid tabs, and Druid, I'm using built-in Druid tabs and custom content over here. So you can tab between front and back, and this is showing you blue with front and back. And then if I click over to back and then I click red, it shows me the back view with the different colors, and then I can click back to front. So basically here, we have two independent sets of tabs. Okay, we have front and back, and then we have blue, red, green, gray. And we have there are images here showing the colors, and then the text here showing the front and back. And there's a little bit of CSS so that this stuff is vertically and horizontally centered in the middle. I just made it a flex box and centered the text relative to the images. So this was a request that they had, and they wanted this done, and I said, I'll do it, but only if you come to the wiki class and learn how I did it, and then we'll do a recording, and everyone will be able to learn how to do it in the future. So this is, I did patch Druid to make this easier to do. Prior to me doing this, it was possible to do with Druid, but it would have required a bunch of hard coding, and I'll talk about later sort of the trade-offs of why I decided to patch Druid, because I don't like to make Druid too complicated, but I also wanted to make this a good class, and I wanted to make this thing on the ATLYSS wiki more reasonable and not quite so hard coded. For example, if they have like front back side in the future, it'll be very easy to add front back side. And I'll do a demo later on where maybe I'll like delete red, and I'll show you that this still works even if there's. I mean, I could do that now. If I delete red here, so that there's no more red, it's still. I didn't delete it in the right place. If I delete it from the list of tabs, I didn't actually have to delete that other stuff. If I delete it from the list of tabs, we're still seeing green, we're seeing gray. The toggles still work, and that's totally perfect. If I had done it with the hard-coded version, then this would not work. We would not be able to delete red and have it still function. So let me go back to the live version. Whoops. This version is live and correct and final before starting the wiki class. Yay. I'm sorry for spamming your contribution history like this. Okay. If there were a lot of tabs, like 16, would there be a second row of tabs? I think we have flex wrap on this, so I think so. Let's duplicate node. Duplicate node. Okay. Yes, it would wrap. It would wrap eventually. So it would delete all of. I don't have any padding in these right now. So if I add a little bit of padding to this, if I say like padding, uh, can I do this? Um, I can't do that. Okay, I wasn't sure if I could do that. Let's do point 0.1 em. Oh my god, I didn't delete this. Delete that. Okay. So if we add a bunch of padding, then more of them will wrap and we'll have better spacing. So yes. And then since I duplicated the node, this is now not working. But it because they all have data druid 1.3. And so it's focusing the based on the one. Yeah, it's they've got to all be different. But yes, it would wrap. Um, Oh yeah, padding inline. Right, that's the one that I forgot. I'm used to Tailwind CSS where I can write PX and I know what to do. I like Tailwind. Okay, so does anyone have any questions before I delete everything and start over from scratch? Like, do you have any questions about like implementation, how it works, anything that you want to see, or should I just delete everything that's functional and start over from where we were a couple days ago before I wrote all of this CSS. Oh, also, if you visit this URL right now, nothing's going to work because I put all of this in my user CSS and JS. Okay, so this is not live for anyone except for me right now. I didn't want to break the wiki um, while I was experimenting. So I have my user JS here, and I'm going to have my I did not do very much CSS so far than the recent changes. Okay, so I've got my CSS here, and I've got my JavaScript here. And then we're going to be editing in Sublime Text today. I need to pull my Sublime Text over. Let's see. Okay, so this is the JS, and then I need to make this have two columns, and then this is the CSS. Okay, so we'll be editing in Sublime, and let me just check. Yes, we're on ATLYSS right now. So cool. You're wondering if I could, for example, put the front and back tabs on one. Oh, yeah. Okay. So, the way I would do that, I think if I do, I'm not 100% sure that someone else should answer this, but can I do margin left auto? Does that work? That doesn't work. There should be a way to do it. Oh, yeah. So I could put margin left 2 a.m. or something, and then like you can make whatever gap that you would want. So it's actually somewhat hard to select this first element with CSS. So I would probably just hard code it to be on the blue one. Um, because these are all siblings, and so first child wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. But uh, yeah, so you could do something if you. Oh wait, if we do margin right auto on this one, it might work. Margin right auto. No. Can I do 100%? No. Can I do 50%? I don't know. You can do something with a margin probably to get it to wrap. Um, Or another option is that we could change this to display grid because right now it's flex, right? So yeah, so that's probably what I'd do is I'd change it to display grid and then I would put front and back in grid areas. So I'd do like a 2x4 grid and then I'd put front in row 1, column 2, and then I'd put back in row 1, column 3. And I'm saying things one indexed, which is not correct, I don't think. And then I'd put the colors in the bottom row. And you could also make front and back like span between the first two columns and back span between the second two columns if you wanted to. So yeah, I would make this container. Okay, so this container would be like display grid. And then I'd have like grid template or grid call. Oh god, I don't remember the grid CSS offhand. I think it's like grid template columns 25 or what, 1 FR, 1 FR, 1 FR, 1 FR, something like that. No, not that. Oh, I wrote 4 here. Yeah. So I do something like this. It's not working because I need to also grid template rows. I don't know, something like that. So you can see the grid in purple, and then you'd have to assign you have to assign some stuff to the children. So this isn't a CSS grid class, so I'm not going to go like more into it. But yes, you could do it, and I would do it with CSS grid. And I would make this one span 2 columns, and this one span 2 columns, and then each of these span 1 column. And if you really want me to, I will maybe write CSS after the class, or maybe we can do that like at the end after I've done jQuery. But yeah, CSS is not my specialty, so I don't want to waste time on lying to you about CSS. but I would do it with grid. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so let's start. I Can you guys see my Sublime text? Is the font big enough, or do I need to figure out how to make the font bigger? Because I don't know how to make the font bigger. Um, Looks good. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so this is all the stuff that I'm about to delete, but I need to keep it open in another tab. So can I like duplicate this? If I split the view, uh, wait, oh, that may have worked. Okay, cool. So let me do that again here. Split view, and then put this over here. Okay, so I've got pages on another monitor that I'm gonna cheat off of. So oh no, it's the same one. God damn it. Okay, fine. Oh no, what did I do? What did I do? Oh, right, I split the view. Okay, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, cool. Everything is good now. Um, so I'm gonna save this. Oh, I'm too tall because my other monitor is bigger. Okay. I never use full screen. If you're wondering why I'm not like clicking this button, I never click this button. I hate that button so much. Oh my goodness, I don't like that button. I'm not a fan of that button. Okay. For some reason, Sublime is like saving very slowly. I think like there's an extra network call happening and I don't know why. And yesterday I reported to Alex that the servers were slow and it was because Sublime is being weird. Um okay, so I just want to delete this stub real quick because that's confusing the shit out of me and I keep thinking I'm in preview when I see that. So we can re-edit later. I'm just doing that uh for my own convenience. So remind me to re-add the step. Okay, so this is what we're starting out with. Let me also put the HTML on Windows so that I can super cheat. When I say HTML, I'm talking about wiki text. Okay. So the HTML, we're gonna do a quick web dev lesson. This when you open the inspector. Can someone link the DevTools article from my blog in the chat? When you open the inspector, this is HTML. Okay, it says search HTML, and you can search in here, and the search is really shitty for some reason. You can see your current selector over here. This isn't necessarily the selector that you'd want to use if you're writing JavaScript or CSS, but this is a selector to get to where you are, and it's specifically the like just direct descendant selector, so that you can like uniquely find where you are in the tree and stuff, and then you can go back up. You can click through it to like see all of the parents. This slider is very useful. So this is the HTML. What generates the HTML is a combination of the MediaWiki software and the markup that you put here. Okay, so if I write like div style equals height 100 pixels, width 100 pixels, color background red. So if I write this, I'm writing this in the HTML and then it shows here, right? This is wiki text, and then it's going to be directly in the HTML. You can see this div that I just created, okay? So wiki text is not the same as HTML. There's a whole bunch of processing that goes through by the MediaWiki software after you have saved the page. That does a whole bunch of rendering. Obviously, the interface isn't part of the wiki text. A lot of stuff goes on, but there's a relationship between the wiki text here and the rendered HTML here. So when I talk about editing the HTML, I'm talking about editing the wiki text, and that's roughly synonyms. Okay, so this is where you edit the HTML. Okay, and then you have and I'm using my personal user sandbox pages, but you can use the wiki. This is where you edit the JavaScript generally, is at common.js. There's a few other places you can do it. You can do it using gadgets. You can do it using the skin.js at vector.js. You can import. Generally, it's better not to import because that's an extra network call. You can use gadgets. You can use your user sandbox page. Today, we're going to be using my user sandbox page. So this is special my page slash common.js, and it's blank right now because I just reverted everything, but it was here before until I just blanked it. And this st here means that I'm doing it from Sublime Text. And then you have your personal user common css special my page redirects you to your own page, and you can see the history here where I also just blanked this. But normally you will put most css at MediaWiki common CSS, and this will be common to all skins. There's generally a comment here saying it's common to all skins, and this is where you're going to put CSS for templates and stuff. So those are the main three things that go into rendering a web page. Is that HTML is the structure of the document with different elements that are next to each other, contain each other, etc. And the CSS is how you style it. So the CSS, when you go into the inspector, you can see over here. So we have this like background color here. If we unchecked this rule, we're modifying the CSS of the page, right? So if we actually go here, it's now been commented out, right? The browser commented this part out because I unselected it here. If I reselect it here and then I go back to the style editor, it is not focused. If I go here, this is shown again, right? So we're literally editing the CSS in real time when we use the browser inspector. So CSS is appearance. This element, nothing over here is changing, right? The HTML and CSS are totally independent of each other. So nothing changes in the HTML when I select this with CSS, or when I select this in the CSS and I toggle and untoggle this background color. So that's HTML and CSS. The third component is JavaScript. What is JavaScript? JavaScript is code that will make the browser do what I'm manually doing right now, right? I'm manually editing something right now. With JavaScript, I'm just like taking the page apart, like unchecking all this shit. And we're getting like closer to whatever the default displays are for stuff. JavaScript is a way by which you can have the software interfere with the CSS and the HTML. I'm saying interfere, in a positive way, assuming that you did it right. But JavaScript lets you modify the document in real time. You can also do pretty much anything you want with JavaScript, depending on the permissions that you have on the site. But like you could use it to send a request to send an email to someone. You could use it to, assuming the server can do that for you. You can make API calls. Like there's lots of things that you can do with JavaScript. If we look at the recent changes here, which take a long time to load because I show 500 per page. If we look at the recent changes here, you see this little edit icon here? I'm adding that. That's like a physical DOM node that I'm adding in my custom, right? There's an extra custom edit link element here. That's not part of MediaWiki. That gets added through my custom global JavaScript, okay? So we're literally, the JavaScript is editing the HTML and modifying the structure of the document. So those are the three components, and we're going to be using all three of those components today when we make this happen. So again, what we want to have happen is that we want these toggles over here, that we're going to have the color toggle, and we're going to have the position toggle, and then we're going to have the color toggle. Okay, so there's another template I have to delete. Okay. Custom render image. Let me delete this real quick. Oh, but I still want to see it. Okay. Okay, so you guys need to keep me honest today because I'm really gonna be like tempted to copy paste stuff because I literally have all of the code in front of me on other monitors, and I'm gonna be so tempted to copy paste stuff. You guys gotta keep me honest and call me out in the chat if I no one linked my article. Um, Dev tools. Okay, here is my article on Dev tools. If anyone is like unfamiliar with what I've been talking about so far and you want to read more about how to use Dev tools. That article is relevant to pretty much every single wiki class so far. So I think it's in the description of every wiki class that we have. Um, okay, yeah. So yell at me in the chat if I copy paste anything from outside of my screen because I really want to make sure that I'm showing you how to do this from scratch. Okay. So you find a template by these two open curly braces, tell you the name of the template, and then you go up to the first pipe or the end of the template. So in this case, it's custom render info box. Did I do that right? I, oh, yeah. Okay, no, I didn't. I wanted to go to, anyway, I want to go here. So this is the info box template. This already exists. I didn't modify it at all. This is using Druid. You can find Druid documentation on the support wiki. We'll link that in the YouTube description also. So there's a bunch of stuff here. I don't think I fixed that bug. I should probably fix that later. Okay, anyway, so, oh yeah, okay, never mind. Okay, so we have our sections are description, our desk, general, and stats. Description is the field in desk, and if we have the page up here, and that's not shown here. But we have general and we have stats, and I think those both are shown here. So we have general with level and rarity, and we have stats with defense. Okay. So normally with Druid, you can make tabs, and you make tabs with, we're going to edit the leather cap page now. We're pretty much done with this template. This template is not, we're doing everything when we call the template through the content page. Okay, so we can make tabs in Druid, and the way that you make tabs is you write like tab 1, tab 2, tab 3, and then you preview it and you can see these tabs. And I specifically excluded these tabs from working in the site JavaScript, so they're not working right now. If I change the kind, it'll work because I made everything dependent on the kind. So we have these tabs and we can click them and nothing happens because none of the content is tabbed, right? But this is how Druid works by default. So the first thing that I did, because we don't want Druid's built-in behavior for these tabs, we want to write our own custom behavior, is that I went to MediaWiki common.js and I did this already, I'm sorry. But basically this is the normal Druid CSS. It comes prepackaged with Druid, and I turned off this working. I turned off this selector so that it's not happening in any container that has Druid container armor render. Okay, so how do we know that it's armor render? I keep closing that template page because I think I don't need it, but I do. So that's the kind here, right? We changed it to armor render too, temporarily, so it's Druid. So if we inspect here, and we look at the container element, we have Druid container armor render too, because we put the 2 here, and so indeed it is not Druid container armor render, right? But when I get rid of the 2 here, and then I save this, and then I'm going to repreview previewing a page repeatedly is a nice way to get around cache, instead of having to like use purge cache. So I typically will just like preview over and over again and do everything inside of a preview, instead of saving and then like, because when you save the template, the page doesn't update until you purge cache, and that's like several clicks. So I'd rather just preview over and over again. So that's why I'm previewing the page right now. So Druid container armor render, we're back to here because that's what we changed it, and then these tabs won't work anymore because that we have this not over here. So I forked Druid.js slightly, and if you need to update from like the authoritative JS in the future, you'll need to redo this fork. So it's not the absolute bestest thing in the entire world to fork from Druid, but you know, it's a very minor change. So as long as you're aware of it, you're fine. And maybe you could comment it or something that's a thing. So these tabs are not doing anything because we have told them not to do anything. We made Druid not do anything here. So we're going to write our own logic, and that's what we're going to do today, is that we're going to write our own logic so that we can show various images based on two poses, or like two types of poses. So the two types of poses that we have are, we have position, we have front and back. So we're going to want the first two tabs to be front and back, and then we're going to have the order is blue, red, green, gray. So those are the tabs that we want to have. So let's check this, and we indeed have these blue, red, green, and gray tabs. So I want to use lowercase single words for all of my tab identifications. Okay, so these are the tab IDs. And if you look in the inspector, we have this data druid tab key equals front here, and then we have tab key equals back, tab key equals blue, red, green, and gray. And these druid tab keys are how we're going to know what did we click, okay? So when we click on back, it knows that we clicked back and nothing's happening because there's no JavaScript taking effect, but it knows which it knows which element I clicked, and it knows it will be able to get the data druid tab key from this. We could technically also get the display here, but we're changing the display, and that would be confusing. So we know the data druid tab key, and that data druid tab key is going to be like the key for everything that we do now. So I do have like the wiki. So when I say I, like, this is things that the ATLYSS wiki people leave to me. So I want to change the displays a bit. So I want front label to be front, and I want back label to be back. And so that's how it works with like changing it so that it's uppercase here. And then if we look at the inspector again, it's still the lowercase front because that's based on the key. So that's a feature of Druid, okay? That's something that Druid is doing for us. Oh, Untitled said that I should mention what a selector is. This is probably true. Okay, so what is the selector? All of these things that you're seeing over here are selectors, okay? Druid main images label, that's a selector. This is a class, and that's going to select all images on the page that have this class associated to them. This selector is Druid main images label and focused, the two classes, okay? This is selecting all elements on the page that have these two classes. A selector is a way to select all elements on a page that match a certain specification, and that specification is the selector. It'll be a set of classes that are prefixed by dots. Star is literally anything. This is a rule that I set in my ATLYSS browser extension, because font ligatures drive me crazy and I don't want to see them. So I made this important rule. This is a local rule on my computer, and it's applying to every single element. This is not a thing that you generally want to do. You do not want to put an important rule that's applying to every single element on the entire page. But I really hate font variant ligatures, so I did this. This is something that is set by my browser CSS, is to change the scroll bar width because I like having thin scroll bars. So that's part of my user specifications in Firefox. I have a theme that gives me nice scroll bars. So okay. So I want to make another selector here to show another kind. So if I say MW content text outline, did I misspell that? Oh yeah, because I'm not there. Okay, outline 2 pixels. Wait, what did I want? Dashed. Fine, outline dashed. So this hash here, pound sign, number sign, whatever you want to call it, that's for an ID. Okay, so we have ID MW content text here, and then we have this dashed outline. So this hash here is for an ID. And the thing about IDs is that you make an agreement, you make a promise that if something has a particular ID, nothing else on the page, okay? Other elements on other pages on the wiki is fine, but nothing on the same page will have the same ID. So the guarantee with ID is that we're matching exactly one element. Pinky swear. Absolutely will never have more than one element with this ID. Um, so MW content text, that's an ID selector. And then we could also do we could do div, right? That's gonna be like everything. So div, this is an element selector. Okay, so class selectors, ID selectors, and element selectors. Every single div now has a dashed outline. You can do it if you want to do that. Go ahead and put that in your personal CSS. It's I like using outline when I want to uh, show things because outline is almost never used and it shows up very clearly. Usually I do like dashed 2 pix magenta. So that's normally how I find something when I'm trying, like if I can't find an element, I'll give this rule. So this is a rule outline dash 2 pixels, or I did fuchsia, whatever. Um, is that the same as magenta? I don't know. That's the rule that I will give. Sometimes I use red. It depends on the background color, and that'll help you locate something if you're like editing in the style sheet and you don't know if you have the right selector. And you can even put an important there temporarily while you're debugging. Okay, so that is what a selector is. Does anyone have any questions about what a selector is? I'll keep going, but if you have questions about what is a selector, post in the chat and I will help you. Okay, so the wiki has 4 files for the images, or like for the colors that they wanted me to use. So the blue label is going to be file blue dye.png, and then I don't want this to link to anywhere. Okay, so this is how you make it not link: is you have it linked to an empty string. And then we're going to do red, green, and gray. Red, green, and gray. And then this is going to be red, green, and gray. Let's preview this. Okay, so we've got this is cool. You can see the positioning isn't quite ideal. And we will let's go ahead and fix that now. So in order to center something, usually you're gonna want to like just throw a display flex. So what's the selector here? We're gonna look here, and then we're going to say, okay, we're probably gonna want to use like Druid tab. Druid tab probably works. So we're gonna say Druid tab, and then we're going to say display flex, and then we're going to center it. So display flex by default goes in a row horizontally. So first we're going to center it vertically by saying align items center. And then if we do this, I need to save my page on the wiki so that I can control F5 now. So if we control F5 now, that's not good. It's not centered horizontally anymore. So then we're going to also have to justify content center. How do I know align items versus justify content? I have written a lot of CSS. How should you know it? Probably Google it. Or this is a situation where it's slightly reasonable as Chat GPT to say, how do I center horizontally in a flex element? And it will probably give you a decent answer because that is a very common question, and so it has a lot of correct source language to pull from. So now we are properly centered, so that's great. There's one small issue here, which is not totally an issue, but okay. So we're customizing Druid a lot right now, and the only time we actually care about this customization is for this particular kind of info box. I don't want to edit any info box except for this armor render kind, okay? Because this is just customization for armor render and not for anything else. So every single selector I make for this entire class, I'm going to make sure that we're contained inside of Druid container armor render, okay? So the selector is a Druid tab, something with the class Druid tab that's inside of something with the class Druid container armor render. And that way I will target all of these armor render info boxes, and I won't target anything else, okay? So I'm gonna, this is my mouse gesture for Control F5. Okay, when I do this, I'm doing a cache refresh. I'm sorry. So there's no change here, and there shouldn't be a change, but now we're being more specific. Okay, that's called adding specificity to a selector. The more stuff you have here, okay, I like air quotes around stuff. The more stuff that you have before a selector like this, the more specific it is. And specificity is important for two reasons. The first is so that you're targeting exactly the set of elements that you want and nothing else. And the second is so that you can do your overrides correctly. And I don't know how much we'll actually get into specificity today. That might be a topic for another class. But basically, if I were to write like this, and then but I add like body here. Um, Display flex, and then I said like flex direction column, like, oh, the horror. So which rule do you guys think is going to apply to the tabs if I do this? And don't answer if you know the answer. um but I'll just give you a second to like think about what you think the answer would be. Is do you think that this one would apply, or did this one apply? Because this one like comes later, but I don't know, like, what's up with this body, like what's gonna happen. um Okay, so the answer is that this one is going to apply because there's more stuff here, right? Because we have the body in addition to these, like these two classes are the same, and then we also have the body here. So even though this one comes later, this rule is going to apply because it's more specific. So when you're trying to figure out what's going to apply to the selector in question, the first thing that you look at is specificity. So this one's more specific because it's saying that it has to be inside of body. And then the second thing is what comes lower in the page, right? So now this one's lower in the page, and we're going to now it's going to be flex direction row instead of, because actually we're not specifying any flex direction here, so it'd still be flex direction column. But let's say that I put flex direction row here, and I explicitly call it out to be flex direction row. So then this one's going to apply in this case. Okay. If you don't overwrite a property, then you'll pick it up from the less specific filter. Like you don't the, the if flex direction isn't set here, that doesn't mean it's going to override it to the default. It means it's going to not override it at all. So it won't be overridden, and you'll get that. So slight tangent on specificity. Um, in this case, I'm using specificity not for the overriding reason, but for the making sure that I'm selecting the correct thing. Okay, question in chat. Is it best practice to put more specific selectors further down in common.css to avoid the common kind of ambiguity? No, no. So let me elaborate on the question. So the question is like, so it might be a little bit confusing to some people about how specificity works. Does that mean that I should make the specificity and the position in the style sheet agree? And the answer is no. Learning this thing about specificity and position in the style sheet is one of the most important things to learn when you start doing CSS. So that's not going to be ambiguous for anyone who's done like a decent amount of CSS work. And that's also like a big feature of CSS. It's very useful to take advantage of the fact that you can put more specific rules higher up, so that you can keep your code organized for what makes sense semantically, and use more specific selectors as you want. So one thing that you may want to do sometimes is put an overriding rule later with equivalent specificity. If you don't want to increase the amount of specificity in your rules, you might want to move the rule lower down so there's overriding without having to do this the specificity increase. And a reason for that might be if you're doing like some generic styling elements on the site where you want it to be very easy to override in specific circumstances, you don't want to make the default very specific. Right? Like you want defaults to be pretty unspecific so that it's very easy to override them in the special cases. And for a case like that, you might want to rely on position over specificity to set your default styles. And that way your special case styles don't have to get like ridiculously specific so that you can override what the default was. So sometimes you are going to want to organize it because but it's totally fine to have more specific rules higher up, and that's not something that's going to confuse anyone who has much CSS experience. This is one of the first things that I'm telling you today. So if you're like brand new to CSS, then like as you can see, like that's really important, and you have to learn it very early on. So that is not going to be confusing to many people looking at your CSS. If you have your CSS edited by a whole bunch of beginners, you could add a comment explaining that this is going to override the lower thing. And you can also like link people to tutorials, documentation, and stuff. But that is something that everyone who's editing CSS should understand and should have a good understanding of. So I hope that answers the question very thoroughly. All right, great. So moving on. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to actually make some content because right now we have no content. These tabs, but we have no content. So I'm going to go back to the page. I'm going to close this for a sec so I can type faster. Okay, so we've got these tabs. And I'm just going to make a comment here where I'm like tab setup. And because we're in the middle of a template here, the white space in between parameters isn't going to matter. I mean, it matters a little bit, but this particular white space is fine. This is safe. And it's safe for me to like put another comment here on its own. If we were not inside of a template with parameters separating, this would not be okay. But it's okay. It's okay here because it's right before this extra pipe. So this is after this. I'm going to put content setup. Okay, so in Druid, the way that you make an image is you write image equals image here, yay, haha. And that's not this isn't actually the name of a file. This is not an image, but as you can see, it doesn't care. You can do anything you want in the image field. Uh, there's going to be a little bit of special HTML applied by Druid. Like it says, hey, look, it's the main image because we use the image parameter. But you can put anything you want in the image section, and that's because of the way that Druid is coded in Lua. And you can also put images elsewhere if you wanted to. As you can see, we have the image display tab. So we're going to put some special content inside of our image, and basically what we're wanting to do is we're own focus behavior for this. So I'm going to give us a parent container. So this is going to be this is going to contain all of the content. So I'm going to say like content here, yay. And then we'll be able to target stuff in the images using our own class. Okay, and this is sort of encapsulating our stuff. It's necessary to do this because uh, the tabs are inside of the image container like this, which maybe wasn't the best choice of my architecture when I wrote Druid, but it's fine. We're just going to make our own container and we're going to target render images as the parent that contains all of the images. Okay, so I'm going to put an image here. I'm going to start out just by putting one image. And this is going to be file. I need to make sure that I have this right. I think it's what is it? Leather cap. And then I should have back and blue.png. So I just picked one at random, and let's make sure that this is working. Okay, so these are the images that they gave me. We have like back green also exists. So these are the images that they uploaded, and this is what we're going to work with. So these images were already here. I asked them to give me these images for leather cap. I don't know if they're all uploaded for every single page, but I just needed one uploaded for an example, and then this is how they'll upload the rest. Underscore and space are equivalent, so this is also the same thing. Underscore and space are sometimes okay. So, but this is a little bit hard to figure out anything about. So if we look at the inspector again, because remember what I need to do is I'm gonna need to click on something that says front, back, blue, red, green, or gray, and then I'm going to need to focus the correct image. So what do we have here? Well, we have this like href parameter, and maybe I could do something with that, but there's not really any class here that says back and green. And so I want something that is going to be easily focusable once I've clicked back and once I've clicked green. So I'm going to wrap this also in a class. Okay. And I'm gonna write render back green, and that's that's just what I'm gonna do. And then when I click green, I can change the color to green, and when I click back, I can change the position to back. And there's gonna have to be some kind of like remembering exactly what's going on, right? Because if I click if I click green, how do I know if I was already front or back? And I'm gonna have to figure that out. But let's figure that out later. Okay. Um, and then let's I'm gonna start with just two of them right now as an example because you'll see why. We'll do front red and back green. Okay, and then we've got both of these images showing up, and I didn't change this, so I want to be front and red. Okay, and this is gonna get out of control pretty quickly if we don't do some edits here. So let's figure out how we're going to make only one show up at a time. And the class that we can make any kind of class that we want, but I'm going to want to start by making. Okay, so the first one is going to be front and blue. So I want to start out with front and blue. So let me make blue, and then this is going to be blue, and then I'm going to give this a class called focused. Okay. And that's not going to do anything yet, but we're going to define it. We're going to write some CSS that defines this, and then we're going to write Druid collapsible. I think is what Druid toggleable. So I'm going to give a class called Druid toggleable, and I'm going to save at this point. So nothing's changed. Right, nothing's changed. Well, we added the blue one, but nothing's really changed. So if we look at the inspector though now, we have these nice three divs where there's three things with the class Druid toggleable, and so we can target Druid toggleable to hide things. And if it's focused, then we want to show it. So let's write our CSS rule for this now. So we're gonna write Druid toggleable, and then we're gonna say not focused display none. And this is one time that I like to make an important in the rule because we might have another selector somewhere that is making this display block or display flex or display inline or something. And when we're hiding it, we want it hidden. Okay. So because CSS has this very unfortunate thing where display none is the same as changing how it displays. I anytime I'm writing a class that's specifically for the point of toggling something, I always put an important on the display none. And I think this is one of the few cases in CSS where it's appropriate to use important. Generally, you don't want to do that, but if it has this Druid toggleable and it's not focused, we really wanna hide it. Okay. So okay, that actually just hit a bunch of stuff. So where did the tabs go? So it turns out that well, it was kind of deliberate on my part because I wanted to have consistency. So let me find the tabs. So um, the where are the tabs? Okay, so here are the tabs. So these are also display none now because they also have Druid toggleable because we're sort of overlapping with the built class. So fortunately, what a coincidence, I had made this class render images, right? So I can do this only inside of render images. Oh my god, I didn't. Okay, render images. So if I make this more specific so that I'm only targeting the things in render images, then it shouldn't be targeting the tabs again. So let's control F5 to refresh the CSS. And it didn't work. Did I actually save this? I'm like getting kicked and having to relog every single time, and I don't know why. That didn't work. What did I do wrong? Where are these still hidden? It's like not. What? Why isn't it saving? Hold on. I don't know why this isn't. Where is my CSS? And here, no, it's not here. What? typewriting. It should be on the. Oh, I edited the wrong thing. I edited the wrong thing. Things entitled. This is my opposite order of from where I'm. I thought it would help for me to be copying, but it's not helping. Okay, so uh yeah, I accidentally put it here, which undid everything. So yeah, so we're gonna specify it to render images. But then what was the other thing that I said was that we're confining literally everything to Druid container armor render, because what if we reuse the render images class somewhere else? We just want to be really careful about it. So I'm only going to allow this to uh, take place in here. Thank you, Untitled. Okay, so again, the tabs still aren't doing anything, but we have the tabs, and um, we're displaying none here. Okay, so here are the three divs, and then I can just, let me just edit this, get rid of the focus here, and now we're not showing anything. So I'm like being JavaScript right now, right? And then if we change it to this one, then it's red, and then if we delete this one. Okay, so what I just did was I did the job of JavaScript, right? So we need to make JavaScript do this toggling class when we click on the buttons. Okay. And I'm gonna come back to the HTML, but let's start writing a little bit of JavaScript. Okay. So how do you write JavaScript? So what do I want to do? So this dollar sign, this is just how you make stuff happen, and resource loader will do magic to it. Okay, so if you want something to happen on load, dollar is for jQuery, and you make jQuery run this after the document is ready. It's super magic, and that just works. um, when you call jQuery directly on this function. So we're going to, this is the first thing that you're gonna want to write mostly anytime that you want to write JavaScript, is that you put it in this container. If you have some JavaScript experience and you're wondering why are we not using arrow functions, the answer is that arrow functions are still not supported by default in MediaWiki, and we're a couple versions away. I think, I'm not sure if it's going to be 1.43 or 1.45, but soon we'll be able to do arrow functions. MediaWiki is pretty slow to adopt new ES features. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to add an action to the side button. And so what specifies the side buttons? Because the side button behavior has to be different the uh, from the color button behavior. Because when we change, what? Oh, blue, right? Yeah, okay. I see, this one's wrapping. Okay, so the side buttons, these two are the front and back, and these four are blue, green, red, and gray, right? And we need to be able to do a different thing, because if we click on one of these, we need to toggle the side, which is the first part of the class here. Right, we have front and then back as the first part of this class that we wrote, and then we have the color. If we click the color, then we need to toggle the color part of this class, which is the second part. So how can we tell these toggles away? And the answer is that we can't really. So we could totally hard code it, and we could do something with first child, nth of type 2, nth of type 3, nth of type 4, right? I don't want to do that. So this is functionality that I added to Druid last night, which is very exciting. And I'm going to add classes. So I'm going to say that front class is Druid render side. And then I'm going to do the same thing for back over here. And this is something that we can now select, because these ones have side, and then these ones are going to have color. So let's also add the color here. And how do you know that this is possible to do? The answer is that you read your documentation that I will update at some point in the future, or you ask for help, or you watch this video and you worked with Druid before. So this part is like knowing that you can add the class using this syntax. That's like knowledge of the framework. So that's something where like you have to know Druid to know that that's possible. And I'll add it to the documentation today, I promise. Um, so here we can see that we have Druid, render side, and I wrote side for all of them. So I get for typing and talking. So all of, okay, so I'm going to put a new line here, color, and then I want this to be color, 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 color. Okay, fantastic. So if we look at the selector again, and you can see, by the way, how much I'm opening the selector and then clicking this button and then clicking somewhere on the page to inspect. This is like something that the more that you do this, that's just going to be like instant. Like you press that shortcut. I like to use Control Shift C to bring it up. Control Shift C to bring it up. You can also use F12, and F12 will open and close it. Control Shift C doesn't close it after it's open, but that's what I'm in the habit of doing because it's easier to reach with my left hand when my right hand's on the mouse. Okay, anyway, so we've got Druid render side, Druid render side, Druid render color, Druid render color, color, Druid render color. Okay, so we have something that we can select. So we're gonna start out with and I'm gonna say Druid render side. And then now this is jQuery knowledge. So we want to do a click function. So I'm going to say on click function, and then we're going to say like do stuff here. But so I'm always worried that a click event is going to get loaded more than once. And usually click events have stuff that like toggles classes. And if you bind the same code twice, you get really confusing behavior. So if I have an element that I know is going to have only one click handler on it, this is just something that I personally like to do, and you might not do it because you might think that buttons are likely to have multiple click handlers and you'd be more confused why the first one isn't loading because you did this. But I really don't like getting confused because JavaScript is accidentally duplicated in user.js plus common.js, and I have a lot of bad experiences with that happening. So I like to first turn off any previous click event because in all likelihood, the previous click event was the same code as is running here because it's duplicated between your user CSS when you are testing and .js, or like common.js and a gadget on accident. So I think that this gets rid of a lot more accidents than not having it, but putting this off, like this is optional, and it depends because if you sometimes you might actually want to have multiple click events happen on on something. Like you might want to log how often something is happening or see something in the console, and or you might want to like if something is clicked, you might want to pull it into focus, or there's a lot of reasons you might want to have multiple click events on something. I have found in my years of doing MediaWiki stuff that that is not very common, and if you do want multiple click events, you would have one click event and you would write the lots of functionality inside of it, and that the much more common thing is that you actually have the piece. So I like to turn it off. And then the second issue that we have is, as I said at the start, again, we want to put everything inside of Druid. I spelled it wrong. Druid container armor render. Okay. So when you select something with jQuery like this, you can put any selector here that you want. And so it doesn't have to be just one class. It can be anything you want. So we are going to use a class contained in another class. And we're just going to make sure that we are only touching the armor render type of container. Okay, so we're going to want to do stuff here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to console.log click. So that's our first click handler. And when you're starting out, especially, I highly recommend, like, this is how you start, is that you make a selector, and then you can go to the console, okay, and then we're going to click it, and it said click. And then you can see a little counter over here. So it's not going to spam with vertically, it's just going to increment this clicker. So I can click a bunch here, I can click here, And it's just anytime I click one of these, and then specifically not when I click these, it's not going to happen when I hit click these. Okay. So we have our first click handler. So everyone do a little celebration that we have made a click handler. And we have, okay, this is actually a click handler. It's handling the click and it's doing something here. That's awesome. That's so cool. Yay, everyone party in the chat. Okay. So um obviously this wasn't the end goal, you know, we still want to do something else. I'm just gonna change the indenting here a little bit. I like to be a little bit more indented like this. Okay. Um, so we're gonna now, and I'm gonna keep this click handler the whole time. Okay, this is gonna be like the last thing that I delete is this, and I'm gonna additionally write. I'm gonna write like, clicked side. Okay, so it's a little, it's telling us what we're doing. Okay, so um the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to hide everything. Okay? Because when we do an event like this, we need to hide. Generally, what we want to do is we want to hide everything and then we want to show one thing. And it's a little bit easier to hide everything than it is to show everything. So I'm going to start by when I click this button, everything's just going to go away. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. We'll fix it. but that's what I'm going to start out by doing. So I'm going to say and then remember everything. All of the images are inside of this render images class. Okay. So this is going to be so we're going to hide all of the images. Hide all the images. Actually, I'm going to write handle images. And then we're also going to have to handle the tabs. And we're going to have to do those separately. So this is going to be inside of render images. Um, and then what do we want to toggle? Um, so inside of the render images, right? Okay, so this is where's the oh yeah. Okay, inside of rendered images, we want to toggle everything that has Druid toggle, right? These all have the Druid toggleable. Um, And when I say we want to toggle everything with Druid toggleable, okay, what we want to toggle is the focus class, right? We want to turn off the focus class. And what we're doing that to is everything with Druid toggle. Okay. So all of the things with Druid toggleable inside of the render images, right? We want to remove class focused. Okay. Because remember, the not focused being focused is how you don't get hidden. So if we remove focused, then you're going to get hidden. So I'm just going to save this again. I don't know why it's relogging me every single time I save. It's like so many extra network calls. Okay, so when I click back, what did I do wrong? Oh, I just didn't wait for it to load. Okay, so let's do that again. So you click back and everything's gone. So it's not really gone, right? We just got rid of the. So watch over here. Okay, watch right over here when I do it. Okay, you're watching here and it has focused. Okay, watch and toggle is gone. I'll do it one more time. It's sometimes really fun to watch it change. So watch focused. I click again and focus is gone. So our unclick is working as we want. And then we can also check the console and we clicked the side once since we reloaded the page. So that's working as we want. It'll be a little bit harder to make it show. So, we'll do that later. Okay. So we want to handle the tabs now. So where the tabs, I keep like looking at this code I prepared, but obviously I should be looking here. Okay, so the tabs are inside of Druid. Oh, look at that. Okay, so Druid tabs. Focused. Okay, so the tabs, because remember the tabs are also Druid toggleable. So inside of the Druid tabs, we have the Druid toggleable class. So let's refresh again. And remember, every single time I'm saying refresh, we're like control F5ing. Okay, so it doesn't hide it, it just removes. It's not focused, right? Okay, so let's do that one more time. So you can see it starts out blue because it's focused, and it has, and we can watch over here too. So watch, is that the yeah, so watch over here and watch the focused go away. So it's not focused anymore. Okay, so now I'm going to introduce you the single most important thing, okay? And the single most important thing is this. That's so funny to say because it's literally this. That's not a pronoun without an antecedent. The this keyword, the keyword here. There's infinite puns that you can say about this. That wasn't even on purpose. Oh my god, I love it. It's my favorite thing. So this keyword, the keyword right here, this keyword is the element that you just did something to. Okay? So when we clicked it, when we clicked the element, this is what we clicked. This is what we clicked. Oh, it's so great. I love it. I love it. Okay. So, oh, it's adding the focus class to the other thing now. And you can watch over here. You can watch it talk. Clicking things and then watching something move. The best thing ever. This is so cool. Oh my goodness. So just keep up with the this puns, please, because it'll help you remember. So we're going to add the focus class to whatever you just clicked, okay? And this is a great pattern. I love this pattern so much because um we could try and figure out what had the class before and remove it because we only need to remove it from one class. And instead we're removing it from like literally everything, right? So that's kind of a little weird. Is that really what we want to do? Yeah, because it's just so much easier. We don't have to know what we clicked before. Um so this isn't exactly the right selector, and I'm gonna have to change it later, but for now we're cool with it because it's true toggleable. So um, we're removing it from everything and then we're adding it to focus. Okay, so for images, it's going to be a little bit harder to show the right thing. So I'm going to write out like some pseudocode. Okay, and okay, first I'm going to talk a little bit about another issue. Okay, so here's going to be the issue. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to copy it here. Oh, crazy. All right, good night, Untitled. Um, okay, so we have two info boxes, and then I'm going to click this. And what do you think is going to happen when I click back? What? So think about what do you think should happen, and think what do you think will happen. Okay, so what should happen probably is that uh, this should get focused, huh? And we're hiding this image. Okay, but what actually happens? Oh, that's not good because we can totally have two. Well, I don't know. Maybe you can't have two info boxes on the same page, but you can totally have two info boxes on the same page. That's 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 a little scary. We don't like that. Okay. So we're gonna use we're gonna do something that is very important to do in jQuery. It's important to know about this, and it's important to use this. It's important to use this, I guess, pattern whenever you're doing content like this. I'm gonna say parent. Oh, also, if you know JavaScript, you may be wondering why am I not using let. Let is also part of ES15, and we are doing 16 with the big one. Let is also part of the big one that we don't have when arrow functions were introduced. So we also cannot use let. Every now and then I accidentally use let, and then my JavaScript doesn't load, and it's like, missing semicolon at line whatever. And I'm like, what are you talking about? But obviously, like, it doesn't know that let is a keyword, so it thinks that I just have some two random words in a row that are variable names and I don't have a var. And I get so confused. And it's so confusing. It's just terrible. You cannot use let in MediaWiki yet. Soon you'll be able to, but not yet. Okay. So we're gonna reuse this, right? Greatest thing ever. I did it. Ah, typing is hard. Okay, so we're getting the element that you just clicked, okay? And then we're gonna get uh closest. Okay, so this is a keyword. Closest is a keyword that gets the closest parent that matches something. And I want to match well, let's find out what I want to match. So I want to make sure that I am only in this one info box. So um okay, Druid main image would probably work. We can probably use either of these, really. Either the Druid section container or Druid. Either of these selectors would work. We can select this parent and do all of our operations within this parent, or we can do all of our it really doesn't matter. So I'm going to use this one because that's the one that I used last night. Also, it doesn't matter. You can pick either one. So I'm going to pick Druid section container. Okay, and then for the entire after I've figured out what this parent is, okay, for the entire rest of this function, I'm going to change this. So I'm not going to select everything with render images Druid toggleable. I'm going to select parent.find this, okay? So if you just do a selector like this, you're basically finding everything in the entire document. So this is the same as like document.find, something like I think those are equivalent. I think this and this are equivalent. I'm pretty sure. Um, but we want to find only within our parent, okay? And so we're going to use the same selectors, but we're only going to find them within the parent. Okay. And why do I have the dollar sign? Why do I have the dollar sign before parent? Because that's a jQuery selector. So I like to use a convention that anytime that I'm assigning a variable or anytime that I'm assigning a jQuery selector to a variable, I put a dollar sign at the start of that variable. And that's how I can keep like sometimes I mix vanilla JavaScript and jQuery with each other, and then that way I know what is the jQuery element and what's the vanilla element. It's just a convention that I like. I also added special syntax highlighting in my Sublime Text syntax highlight file that highlights every jQuery object slightly differently, right? So like parent and dollar parent are highlighted differently, so that all my jQuery stuff is like very easily visible. So we're gonna refresh this. We still have our two info boxes. So we click this and it wasn't letting. Let's see. Wait, I did something wrong. What did I do wrong? Oh, wait. Huh? Oh, I didn't put a dot here. Okay. So it was looking for an HTML element called like it was looking for like this and as if that were like a div, right? That's what I was looking for because I didn't have the dot. So it wasn't that was the wrong this was the wrong selector. So we're gonna do this and we're gonna refresh again. Okay, it should work now. Okay, so now I can click this and I can click this. Oh, fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. Okay, so everything is happening within the parent. Okay, small issue here with the selector when we're handling the tabs because this is how we would do it if we wanted to do all of the want to do all the tabs, but I'm gonna like be jQuery real quick, and I'm gonna tell you, okay, red is focused, and then I'm gonna click front, and it's gonna unfocus red, and that's not cool. So that's part of why we have the side and color. Okay, so we want specifically the render side. So it's not Druid toggleable that we want to render side. Okay, whoops. Save this, wait for 17 API calls to finish. The save is so slow right now. I think I might have made a mistake because I put code I forged me anyway. I think I made okay. So now it happens, and let's be JavaScript again. Oh, by the way, you can also, like, if you want to add a class here, you can expand this little CLS thing, and then you can, like, just, um, and it's very cool. It, like, updates in real time. So now there's a focused color, and then it works. Okay. So the tabs for front and back are working pretty well. Okay, color, we'll worry about color later. But front and back, like, these tabs are doing exactly what they need to do. They're not interfering with blue, and they change which one's highlighted. So that's fantastic. So at this point, if anyone has any questions about what we've done so far, please ask in the chat. And again, I'll continue, but I'll come back to your question as soon as I see it. Okay, so now we need to actually handle the image. So how do we handle the image, right? So conveniently, very conveniently, we have this other copy of the info box that we can look at. Well, we could look at the other one. It's just, but anyway, so we have this render front blue, and then we have Druid toggleable, and then we have focus. Okay, so if we click on back, if we click on back, then we want to show the one that is render front back and render back blue. We don't actually have that yet, so let me just add this real quick. So eventually I'm going to add all of the images, but for now I'm going to be a little bit lazy and only add the one that we want. So this is back blue, and then this is back blue. Okay, so what did I not do? Oh, I copied focused. We don't want that to be focused. Okay, cool, great. So we have the div here. So we have the thing that we want to show is now present, right? We have front blue, and then we have back blue. So when we click back, we want to show back blue. But how can we do this? Okay, so when we're showing the tab, we're using the this keyword, right? And we can't do that because we didn't actually click the image. So we're going to need to figure out a different way to do it. And the class that we're going to want to show, so I'm gonna rate like to show. Okay, and this is just going to be the selector. And the first thing I'm going to do is and then I'm going to console.log to show. Okay. So what we want to show is this dot. How can we figure it out from this? Because all we know is that we clicked this. So we need a way to figure out from this that we need to show the blue one. Okay. So if we look here, we have the data druid tab key equals back. Okay. And that attribute data druid tab key, right? That's how we're going to figure out what we want to show. Okay. Data druid tab key. This is how you get an attribute. Okay, so this is just going to, right now we just want to log the word back. Okay, question from Rainbow Entity. I missed the first part of this, but are the tabbers part of the info box template or stuff in its parameters? Yeah, it's more or less, you can, I mean, I'm editing a live wiki, so you can look at it here. But yes, so we're constructing the tabs here, and then they're being rendered by Druid. So I don't want to go too in depth because we talked about it earlier, and also because this isn't a Druid class, it's a JavaScript class. So kind of take for granted that this works to construct the tabs. Okay, first we make the tabs, and then so front, back, blue, red, green, gray, and then we have the front, back, and then we are adding these extra label. We're adding the label for the display, and we're adding the class of Druid render side and Druid render color. And then Druid will automatically add this attribute that tells you, oh my goodness, that tells you the key. So the keys are front, back, blue, red, and so if I renamed this to kittens, right, and I say like kittens underscore, well, let's just do this for funsies. Whoop. Okay, and then if I save this, and then if I look over here, the data Druid tab key is now kitten. So nothing changed in the display, but the tab key is now kittens. Okay. So it's very important that these tab keys match the classes over here, because the tab keys is how we're going to get the attribute. We're going to get the tab key via the attribute data druid tab key, and then we're going to have to use that attribute to somehow show the classes over here. So it's very important that if we were to actually call this kittens, we'd have to make sure that we're using kittens. So instead of writing gray here, like gray, we'd want to write kittens. So that's where the words are coming from. This was green before. Yeah. So I'm gonna change this back to gray because I don't actually want it to say kittens, but that is where that is coming. Okay. So I think I saved it. So now if I like check the console, it should log. Yeah. Okay. So it's logging that I clicked aside, and now we get spam because it's not the same thing many times in a row. So we're correctly showing front and back. Okay, cool. So we need to turn this into the correct image that we want to show. And in order to know, what image to show, we have to know what's currently being shown. Because we've got to, there's two parts to it right now. Right, so let me hard code something, and then we'll talk about what's wrong with it. Right. Okay. So I'm gonna say parent dot find, and in JavaScript you can do arithmetic with strings. So what is the name of the class? It's render dash front dash blue. So I want to find render. Oops, I need to put a period here for the class. Okay, so render dash, and then I want to say choose show, and then I'm going to say blue. Okay, and you're like, whoa, you're just saying blue here. There's more colors. This is for now. We'll replace it. Okay, so let's refresh it, and it does not work. What did I do wrong? Did I actually control F5? Wait, did I actually? We were just finding it, and then we weren't actually showing it. So now we're showing it. Okay, cool, fantastic. All right, so it takes a second to load because it's not cached locally, but so this is pretty good. This is working. This is great, right? So there's one small issue, right? Which is like let me be JavaScript again, okay? So I'm gonna remove the focused here, and then I'm gonna add focused to. I didn't mean that. I don't think I meant that. That's not what I meant. I meant this one. Yeah, I want front red. Okay, so we've now focused red. Okay, remember these tabs aren't really working yet, so I'm being JavaScript in place of the color tabs. And now I'm gonna click black. Oh shit, it's showing the blue one and it's not showing the red one. Okay, so that's not good. So in order to make this work, let me first I'll add back red. But there's gonna be a couple stages to this. Oh, I think I put back only one place and I didn't save the right thing. Yeah, okay, so I'm back. Okay, so we've got the full scaffolding for blue and for red here. Okay, and we're gonna go back to the HTML because that's not the most helpful that it could possibly be. We can make it a little bit more helpful. But first, we're going to want to figure out what image is currently focused. And we don't actually care what image is currently focused, we care what div is currently focused. So when I'm like toggling these images, in the inspector, I look through this list, right? And I see, okay, this is the one that's focused, and then this is the one that unfocused, and then like I look here and I'm like focus, and then I add that class. So how can JavaScript perform the same thing where it looks through these render images and it figures out which one has the class focus? Okay. So I'm going to make JavaScript figure that out. And I'm going to say, I'm going to call it current. Okay. And again, remember, we only want to look inside of our current info box because there are multiple info boxes on the page. And so we're going to say parent dot find, the same kind of selector as we're using over here. And then we want to find inside of render images which one has focus. Okay. So we want to say render images focused. Okay. And then, so that's the current one. And now we know what the current one is. And then the question is, how can we figure out from the current one which one is actually? So let's refresh this, and I nothing is gonna happen if I refresh this. So I'm just gonna tell you what we want to do next. Okay, so over here we have this like really helpful thing where we get the attribute data druid tab key from the tab, right? And that tells us what we clicked. So what we ideally want to be able to do is we want to be able to do something similar from the parent. So what we want to be able to do is we want to say like var cur color for current color, and we want to say that we want to say cur color is current dot attribute, and then maybe data color. Okay, if you want to put a custom attribute in JavaScript, you can absolutely do that. You just have to prefix it with data. Okay, or if you want to, sorry, in HTML, if you want to put a custom attribute in HTML, and then let's log cur color. So this will be our JavaScript, and then we're going to go back to the HTML in a sec. So excuse me. So what happens when I save this, and then I'm going to Control F5 again. And then we're trying to log the current color, right? And so we're going to look at our console, and it's undefined. Okay, so why is this undefined? Well, let's look at your HTML. So this is where we're making the HTML, and there's no such thing as current color, right? So I'm going to say data cur color. Whoa, 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 whoa. I'm inside of the class. I'm going to say data cur color. Or wait, I want to say data color, I think. Is that what I wanted? Yeah, data color. So I'm going to say data color. And this one is blue. And then I'm going to say this one is also blue. And then I'm going to say this one is red. And I'm going to say that this one is red. And I'm going to say that this one is green. Okay. And now let's do it again. And we're going to open our console again. So let's click back. Okay. And now it knows, right? Because our current color is blue. And now let's be JavaScript again. Because remember, these don't yet. So I'm going to remove focus. And then I'm going to add focus here. So add a new class, and then and so, oh, did I just focus a tab? I just focused, what did I just do? I'm in my tabs. I don't, that's not where I want to be. Okay, so I do want this focused, but I'm gonna, okay. So I want to focus a red. So now I'm in the images, right? Render images. So now I'm looking at the images. And it's a little hard to select the right thing always because you're display none, and when you're display none, thing shows up. So if you're like getting confused and you want to get help, you can like undo this. Anyway, so I want to add focus to this, and then I want to remove focus from here. Okay, I just did something very wrong. I think I pressed enter only once. Okay, so now we're looking at this. So now we're gonna look at the console, and then we're gonna click back, and then we're getting red. Okay, this tab is lying. Oh, right, because I have it hard coded to blue. Anyway, so the first time it did correctly say red, and then it went back to focusing blue because we have blue hard coded here. But we're totally fine because cur color, right? Cur color is logging the correct thing. So instead of blue, we want to add cur color here. So we want to show the one that has her color. So let's try that again. So I'm going to refresh my page here. Does everyone understand like what's going on right now with trying to get the current color from the image and showing the right thing? So I'm going to be JavaScript again, and I'm going to hide focus from this one. So we got rid of the image, and now I'm going to add focus here. Um, you have to click enter if you're using the autocomplete. You have to press enter twice. And I keep messing that up. Okay, anyway, so we've got the front view and it's red here. And then we're going to click, and we're still red. And we're going to go back between the two. And so as long as we're being JavaScript, right? As long as we're being JavaScript and we're clicking it, it's correctly going between the two now. Okay, so uh, this is great. Um, so there's one small issue that I feel is a little bit of a problem. Okay, and that issue is so before we handle color, I want to talk about this. Okay, so in the announcement, I said that one of the things that I was going to talk about was, let me read it out loud, was how to know when you should make a sub template and what content to put in it. So I'm not feeling great about this right now because there's just a shit ton of HTML here. There's so much text. Imagine that wiki editors are seeing all of this every single time, and we haven't even gotten to the part where we have to write like data side equals front, right? Like we need to have the data side here too. Is this really something that we want to like make our editors do? And the answer is uh, absolutely not. No, we don't. Okay. So I want to make a template and I'm going to call it so s- people have like different conventions on what they'd want to call it. Some people would want to call it like template custom render info box slash uh image or something. And that convention works if that's what you want to do. You do slash image. I don't like having my template names be long, so I'm just gonna call it custom render image. Um, but you can call this template whatever you want. If you have conventions on your own wiki and you don't like what I do, and you're like, oh my god, why would you not like folderize your template that way? It's okay to not like that. Okay, so this is what we're gonna want to display basically. But we're gonna want to parameterize this. So let me include. Whoops. You always want to put include only tags. And I'm going to var define because okay, so then there's a small issue that I don't love. Because black and blue are uppercased here. We would either need to always uppercase them, or we need to know that they're uppercase for the file and know that they're lowercase for the class name, right? Because these cases don't match. And I don't love this. Personally, I would have preferred to name the files with lowercase b and lowercase b and lowercase f and lowercase r. And I'd prefer that the files just had those lowercase letters so that we could deal with just lowercase and never have to worry about it. Um, it's uploaded as capital B, capital F, capital R, capital first letter here. Um, Okay, you don't understand. Well, I'll get to your question in a sec. So, I don't love this convention. I would have preferred that the images were called like this, um, because it would just make our lives a little bit easier. But they're called like this. We can live with that. But what it means is that we're going to have to, when we make our template, we're going to have to pass capital parameters, and then we're going to have to lowercase them uh, when we have to refer to them in the class. So we're going to have to refer to both the capital and the lowercase version several times. So I'm just going to start out by var defining LC color as LC is a magic word in MediaWiki. It'll lowercase wherever you put it into it. And I'm going to and this is just a var define. It's not a var define echo, so we're not displaying anything here. And I kind of also want this on its own line. Okay, and then I'm going to also var define LC side is going to be LC side, and then LC VD. And these comments, I just think it's a good practice to do. Okay, so now we're gonna like actually write the template here, and then we'll close after that. So this is what we're gonna want to display basically. Um, okay, but then we want to parameterize this, right? So this is gonna be var LC color, oops, LC side, and this is gonna be var LC color, and then the data color is gonna be the color. And this is where the current color came from, is that we added this HTML here. Okay, and we added a data color attribute to our HTML. And then we accessed it with this uh, accessing it into the attribute data color here. So that's how we got the current color, is that we basically passed it to our JavaScript via the HTML. And we're gonna have to do that for the side too. We're gonna have to know that the data side is var LC side. And we're going to need to know the current side when we do the current color tabs. And then over here, we want the capital version. So this is going to be side and then color. Some of you might be wondering, why do I have a pipe here? Why am I not, like, it's a mandatory parameter. So I do not approve of ever putting a variable without a default value. Uh, if you wanted, you could do like undefined, right? So if you want to be like, okay, well, if it's not defined, then I want to have like, I want to write undefined, and then like I see undefined in my DOM and I know that's something like, if you want to do that, fine, you can do like undefined. The absolute last thing that I never want it to happen, that I have these curly braces and the word color. Like, I don't want to see that in my rendered code. I would rather be in an empty space, or again, if you want to write undefined here, you can write undefined. I never, ever, ever want to see these three curly braces. It causes enormous problems, particularly when you're working with cargo and if you have sub templates for a cargo store. It can ruin your entire life. So always put a pipe here, okay? Just always put a pipe here, please. If there's one thing you take away from this class, always put a pipe by your parameters. Like this is basically a syntax error to me. Please put a pipe. Okay, so this is how we're going to get the cur color in our JavaScript, and this is how we're going to get the cur side when we go back and write the color click handler in our JavaScript. So I'm going to go ahead and oh, and then there's one other thing that we need. Okay, because I very deliberately copied this one, and I did not copy this one because this one has the focused class. So we also need a way to specify if there's focus. And I'm going to write I'm going to be a little bit lazy here. I could do something like if focused, and then I can be like focused equals yes or something. But I kind of like the simplicity of writing focused here. And then when we call the template, we can be like focused equals focused. I think that's very cute and self-documenting, and I like it. So I'm gonna write this template, and then I'm gonna write color equals blue. I want to do side first. Side equals front, color equals blue. And then I'm just going to copy this because I'm going to have to write more of it. And then I want focused to equal focused here. Does everyone understand about what the focused equals focused is doing? Does that make sense? What is it? It's red. The order here does not matter. The order does not matter. After the first list of tabs here, the order matters here, and the order does not matter anywhere else. Gray. And then I'm going to copy this again. And then I'm going to write this. And I don't want this to be focused because I only want the first one to be focused. And then I'm going to write back. And then I'm going to write back, back, and back. And I'm going to delete all this. So how is this? Is this good? Are we good with this, or are we going to want to make another subtemplate? I'd probably want to make another subtemplate where I do some kind of looping. So I'd probably want to do something where I have, I'd probably want to get rid of all of this. Okay. and I'd probably want to be like custom render images, and then I'd want to say sides equals uh front comma back, and then colors equals blue comma red comma green comma gray. That's probably what I want to ultimately have. Okay. If we have time at the end, like if my voice isn't dead at the end and we're still all here and want to go over how you do it, I might, but uh, that's going to be a little bit difficult to do without Lua because you need a bunch of looping and maybe you don't need looping. Anyway, yeah, okay, it can totally be done without. Um, it's a little ugly. Anyway, I would prefer that. Focus means that it's the first rendered image to appear. Yes, focus means that it's going, and if we add focus to the HTML, then it's there at the beginning. So let me save this again. And so blue is working, and we haven't added any click handler to the colors yet. But if we check in the HTML, um, we've got, it looks like we've got everything we want, right? We've got front, 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 back, 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 and then we have gray, green, red, blue, and gray, green, red, blue. And then the back one is focused, and then if I click this one is focused. So looks pretty good. So focused means that it's there right now, and putting focused in the HTML means that it's going to be focused when the document loads, which makes it be the first one there. Okay. So the one with focused is going to change over the life cycle of the page as we. But putting focused into the wiki text means that it's going to be the first one. There's one small issue here, which is that this is not focused. Okay. Um, so we can actually fix that because we can put a class here. And so I want the blue class to be. And so now both of these start out focused, right? So that looks better. Um, so that's we can probably just go with that. So that's not the approach that I used last night, but that's better than what I did last night. So cool. So we now start out with both a color and a side, and these don't work yet, but we will address that. So let me just look over this real quick. Give me like seconds to see if I'm missing anything, because I think so, but I want to just. Okay. So one small issue that you might be wondering about is what about the how I promised that every single selector was always going to start with this? Well, um, by calling the closest Druid section container around here to get the parent, we're guaranteeing that we are still in the same element because the Druid section container is contained within Druid, and we are guaranteeing that we're selecting the one that actually contains this, right? Where I mean the keyword this. When I say this. um, so the parent is guaranteed to be part of a Druid container armor render because we're part of the container that we clicked because we can only click this if we're inside of that, and so we're guaranteed to be inside of that by the time. And once for the entire rest of the time, we are only selecting things that are inside of the parent, right? We have parent.find. We don't have an unconditional selector like. So we actually are still guaranteed to be inside of Druid Container Armor Run. If you're feeling unconfident and you're not totally sure, you know, it's not going to break anything to add this here. Like you can do it if you want to, if you want to be secure, but it's not necessary, and that's a very long name, and I don't want to make my script like I think it'll make it harder to read if I add that. So it's slightly up to you. So you can if you want to, but I don't think that that's good. So okay, check from the what we wrote just now is a little bit different from what I had written last night, but I think that's I think that is fine. Okay, cool. So our side is now working totally fine. So now I need to have this on my. Okay, so I'm gonna do something radical, and I'm gonna duplicate this, and it's gonna work really shitty in Sublime Text because I haven't installed. I haven't. Anyway, okay. So we want to now select colors because we're gonna do the color thing. Okay. And then we want to get, instead of a current color, we want to get a current side. Okay. And then we want to put current side here, and we want to put to show here. And then uh, this needs to be a side. So we're getting the side. So I'm basically doing like a switcheroo from side to color. And then I should say click color. And then I want to console. So let's see, her color doesn't show up over here. So I think I did this switching correctly. If not, I will look again to figure out. And then remember, the side is the first part of the class, so I had to reverse these because we have the cur side being after render, and then to show is going to be to show is now a color to show because we're getting um the tab key is going to be the name of the side for the first two tabs, and the tab key is going to be a color for the color tab. So, um, so this feels like slightly sketch maybe because we're getting the same attribute and it's giving us two different types of things. Let's rename this to show. Oops. I want to rename this side to show. Okay. Um. Oh, I don't. I want to name it color to show. So I'm gonna call this color to show, and then I'm gonna call this whoops, oh my god, side to show. Okay, so just small renaming this to make it clear what's going on because when we click a side, this attribute is going to be the name of a side, and when we click a color, this attribute here is going to be a color. So let me save this, and it should we should be done. This is becoming confusing. So for the color, we just copy and paste and switch the two parameters. Yeah, I mean, so basically, like what I would do is, so I'm gonna do a control F for color. Okay, so now we see all of the places that it says color. So like the two things are extremely similar to each other. So we're gonna start out by copy pasting, and then we're gonna do a control F for color, and then we're gonna look all of the places that color is showing up here, and then we're gonna say, okay, let's compare over here to down here, and let's make sure that on this side, we're writing side instead of writing color. And then we want to look over here, and all of the places that we're writing color, we want to make sure that it's side over. So basically, we want to make sure that these selections are exactly opposite of each other, right? So we're selecting a color instead of selecting a side. And then this variable current side is going to, or current color is going to be changed to current side. And then we get the current side from attribute data side instead of from data color. And then remember in our template, not this template, in this template, we have data color and we have data side. So we're allowed to do that because we are setting our two data attributes in the HTML. So this is legal to do because we set it up so that where the attribute exists on the current element because the current this current is an image, right? So is an image div container. So this is guaranteed to have data side as well as data color, and the one that we want depends on which click event, right? So in the color handling, we want to get what the side is so that we can keep. Because the thing is that we want to change the color while keeping the side the same when we click a color, and when we click a side, we want to change the color, or we want to change the side while keeping, right? We only want to change one thing at a time. So we need to find the opposite thing from the currently selected image, and then we want to keep one the same. So each of these has one current thing and then one to show thing. Okay, so we copy pasted and then we switched color inside completely. Okay, that's basically what we did. I mean, that's literally what we did. Is you could do it with Control F, even if you put this into another document. You'd have to make sure that your find replaces are case sensitive because you can't take a capital C and replace it with a lowercase. You have to make sure that but you could do it with Control F. As long as you do it, you'd have to do 4 Control Fs. One to change. Well, you'd have to do 6 really because you'd have to go to an intermediate value. It's a little bit hard. It's a little hard to do with Control F. Here, I'll show you what I mean. So let's take this and then let's make a new document and then let's do a find replace. So I'm going to change color to side. okay? And I'm gonna turn on this case sensitive search. And so then if I do a replace all, then what's happened? Then everything says side. So that doesn't work. So I'd have to do color to temporary. And then I can do color to temporary. And then I can do side to color. And then I can do lowercase side to lowercase color. And then I can do temporary to uh I write solar instead of okay, sorry. So I want to do side to color. Okay, and then we're gonna do temporary to side. And then we want to do temporary to side. Okay, so this should now be the same. If I paste this in, that should be exactly okay. So it's the indentation is off by one. So let me. Oh, it's yeah. Let me just tab this over one and see if it'll. Yeah. So there's no change when I paste it. Right. There's no change at all. So I tabbed this. It was changing the indentation, and I wanted to change. So there's no. So basically, what I did the final um to change color inside because sometimes you can't do that, right? Like there's only two sides, so I could have taken advantage of the fact that there were only two sides, and instead of writing this, okay, so I could have written like toggle class focused, and this would work for the side. So let me show you that this like works for the side. So I'm saving, and then I'm going to go back to here because there's only two sides, right? So we click this and like that works, okay? But what if we had written toggle? So I didn't even check the colors worked before this. I probably should have. I'm not gonna refresh it yet. So let's check. Colors are not working. So I have some mistake. Um, let me let me undo this demo and figure out why colors aren't working. Uh, so on color, I want to find dash render. So this is color to and this is the current side. So let me see what it's. So what happens when I log in? Click color, and then something. Oh, because I okay. So it's correctly saying front. Oh wait, this is backwards. Oh yeah, because I replaced it with the final. I replaced it with final place, and we had to. Okay, this is because I showed off. I'm trying to do the final. So this has to be color to. So we need to. So it's not quite fine release. Oh yeah. Pimander, exactly what you said. I should have looked at the chat. Okay, so this is working now. Let me close this so you can see a little better. So this is working. And again, this one's not changing, right? That's important. So this is working, and then we can go to the back, and then it works when we go to the back. So functionality restored. So now let me show you about so okay, that's one reason that find replace doesn't work is that we did have that issue where we had to reverse these. And when I was doing it by hand, I remembered to reverse them. When I did the find replace, I forgot. So I do prefer doing it by hand if possible. But if you want to do transformations like this, you can try a find replace, but you're either way it's possible to have bugs. But I didn't want to like rewrite literally everything because it's anyway. I don't recommend doing this. Okay, so we could do this, and remember that's what we showed before. But then what happens if we do it here? Oh, what's gonna happen? Okay, so let me refresh again. Okay, so this works, and then oh. So the toggle class works fine if there's exactly two elements, but it does not work when there's multiple elements. And front and back are not like exclusive, right? Like we could add a side view later on or like upside down or something, right? So I'm not convinced that for the entire life cycle of this code that there will only be two sides. Like there could be front, back, and side. There could be front, back, left, and right. Like there could be front, back, top, bottom. There's totally possible to have more than two. So I do not like using toggle class. Even like sometimes toggle class is correct. Like if you have a show hide toggle that's just for one single piece of content, it's a little bit easier to use toggle class and you can go ahead and do that. And I have recommended people to switch from add class, remove class to toggle class in the past when they were like doing things that were very repetitive and there was just like a lot of code. And that is more compact, especially if you have a button that like literally wants to toggle the class. I have isn't actually toggle. Like the the name Druid toggleable is a it's really a Druid tabbable, right? It's tabbable, not toggleable. And so we really need to keep in mind that right now we're tabbing between things. We're not toggling between add class and remove class as separate behaviors, so that we make sure that no matter how many items are on the list, we always the correct. So, and I can even do a demo real quick. So I'm going to add side, and then I'm going to say side label equals side, and side class equals Druid render side. Oh, that's kind of funny. Well, I mean, it would work, but I'm going to say left. Okay. So I just don't want the synonym here. And I'm going to say left class equals Druid render side. And then I'm going to do it's gonna be a broken image, okay? But it, I mean, it'll show up, okay? So it's just gonna show me a broken image where I'm gonna put the side is left and side is left. Uh, that was supposed to be two different colors. We'll just make it for blue and red because I don't feel like copy pasting more. Okay, so we have now a side, and then if we click this, and then we can click this, and you can see that the image doesn't actually exist, but it works perfectly fine if there were another, well, green and red, and then once it's gone, it's gone. So to totally work, we would have had to make four, but other than that, it works when there's three. So let me just undo this because wait, I need to undo. I want to go back to this version. Okay. So, does anyone have any other questions? Does this make sense? I need to drink some water. Sorry, I really should have muted with the code on the screen because that's like the important part. Is the code. And this isn't going to work for you if you visit the wiki because remember, this is my user space, but I'll copy it. It'll work once it's in live. If you want to play with it, I could copy it now, but just in case I make changes based on questions. Oh yeah, hold on. I need to get rid of the console logs. Once you're done, get rid of the console logs. It's just better not to spam people's consoles like that. Anyways, well, okay. So I typically like to whatever I prefer to comment out um I prefer to comment out the console logs because like I figure any console log that you had during development, if there's a bug in the future and you need to go back and edit your code, there's a good chance that the console log that you put during development is going to be useful during debugging. So I don't necessarily want it running on every single refresh and every single click and stuff, but I kind of also don't want to delete the code because it might be useful to me in the future. So I tend to comment out my console instead. What am I using to edit the CSS? This is Sublime Text, or do you mean like this? So this is the element inspector, and if you scroll up a little bit in the chat, or if you look in the YouTube video, there's a link to my blog, and I'll find. So this is DevTools, and DevTools are like the best thing. So everything I'm doing, and you can see these screenshots. Screenshot is on the page, and this goes through a lot of features of DevTools. And I highly recommend reading that article multiple times because the first time you read it, you'll probably not understand everything in it, and that's normal and okay. So you should go back a couple months later and you mean the text doc thing? Oh, okay. So that's Sublime Text. I'm using Sublime Text, and I also have a tutorial about that, which will also go in the video description. So it's called MediaWicker, and you can see an install tutorial here about it. And I love editing wikis through Sublime Text. I think it's a lot easier than editing through the browser interface most of the time. I think it's a great user experience, and you get much better syntax highlighting as you wanted to, and your editing window is bigger, and you can easily alt tab between the two. Like that's what I've been doing like the whole time that my windows are using alt, and I have more than one. All of my windows in the alt tab pop up thingy that Windows does. So I highly recommend editing with Sublime Text. If your wiki is onboarding, it'll be a little because you got to put the you got to put the HTTP auth inside of the URL, and that was part of why I wanted to make sure that he released before I did it. It's slightly annoying to edit non-live wikis when from Sublime Text. So if you want to do a bunch of editing and onboarding, I trying to get through onboarding very quickly and then launching with a slightly less complete wiki so that you can be public and have an easier time. I'm text. Wiki is public. You just type in URL and password. I can't show you my setting. I'm not going to bring that up, but it's pretty easy. Yeah, so VS Code also has another extension. It's called WikiText. I don't like VS Code's extension because with mine, not with mine, but like in Sublime Text, you can very easily switch between wiki, especially if they're on the same wiki. It's easy to have multiple configurations and then switch. So I really prefer using Sublime Text. VS Code is probably overall going to be a better IDE like code editor when you're editing at Lua especially, and you get like more variable. But and the big issue it's not really Sublime's fault. The problem is that you can't use the language server protocol LSP. You can't enable LSP when you're editing text as you have no local file. Well, you do, but you don't have like it's like a temp file. So because you don't have a local file structure, LSP is unable to do its thing on your documents, and so you can't get the full LSP editing functionality in Sublime Text, and so you get a much worse experience. Just the base syntax highlighting without the extra language. So editing in Sublime Text, if you're saving files locally and you configure your LSP properly, is a much better experience than what you're able to get with MediaWicker. And it's a little bit unfortunate that you don't have the local files, so you can't apply that. But the ability to switch between wikis means that I do not like the VS Code extension at all. And unless they add the ability to have, I'm never going. So, but the VS Code one is called WikiText. If you search VS Code WikiText, it'll come up. Oh, I'm starting to cut out a lot. Okay, let me. Oh, it's probably because I had water and then I moved my. So, hopefully it's a little better. Sorry about that. Is there anything that you couldn't understand that you need me to because it was unclear, or you can? I can say something again if you need me to. Hello, can you hear me? Am I still? It's still like flashing my profile green, so I think I'm still seeing things. Okay, great. Is there anything that you want me to repeat if I was cutting out too much before and you didn't understand it? And do you guys? Oh, you might have missed this from earlier, but did we? What did we do to make it so that the tab with the focus class is highlighted in the info box? Oh, that's something that's handled by Druid. Yeah, highlighting the focus tab is that's part of Druid. So That's like part of Druid CSS. So there's a um, where is it? Am I on the right thing? I'm not on the right thing. Okay, so oh no, I am on the right thing. Oh, that one wasn't focused. I'm like, where's the roll for focus? Well, I'm clicking a link that's not focused. So yeah, so this is part of Druid CSS. So we can go and we can look at the style sheet, and it's among a bunch of other Druid rules. So that's part of Druid, yes. And it can be manually done in CSS as well. Yes, so you could add some rule. Yes, but Druid will have it starting to because it's done as the Druid link color. So, yeah, that's Druid. And the highlighting. So we did. Oh, it's not working anymore because I did the whole. Where I showed how it would look with like left. So yeah. So this is the. We did the display of the image focused, and Druid takes care of the display of which tab is focused based on. And then remember, anyone who like skipped through the video or got here late or whatever, um, we are canceling out. We basically forked Druid's JavaScript a little bit, and we canceled out any kind of action of Druid JavaScript on for tabs. Okay, just for the tabs. So this is the block for tabs, and then section tabs will still work if you wanted to add section tabs, and collapsible sections will also still work if you wanted to add collapsible. But just for the title tabs, this is the title, right? Druid title tab. This is the selector for that. That is not going to happen on this type of. So we're piggybacking on Druid CSS, but we are not piggybacking on Druid JS for the tabs. Um, so any other questions? And we wrote a little bit of. Could argue that I shouldn't have piggybacked on Druid at all for the tab, but it's pretty helpful to piggyback because you get the functionality where you get the attributes for free, and you can do the display and add the class like this for free. There's like a Druid gives you a lot, so piggybacking on Druid here is very helpful for controlling the tab. When will the next class be? Um, Probably not for at least 3 or 4 weeks because I'm going out of town. Yeah, well, definitely not for at least 3 weeks because I'm going to be out of town next week. And I'm leaving on the 29th, and I wouldn't class the day before I'm traveling. And then I'm not getting back until the 5th, and I would not want to do a class immediately after getting back. So the earliest the next class would be is the 12th, and whether there is a class depends on if on if a topic has come up. But okay, I think that at this point, oh, you're wondering how much of a performance impact something like this is happening. What's a sign that something that you're doing is having too much of a performance impact? Um, so that's actually a really good question. I would say that as long as you're doing so anything with a network call, you've got to worry about. Okay, so a network call is anything that's calling to the MediaWiki API, or if you're doing like an Ajax call or something. Um, you should always worry in case that there's a network call that something is happening with performance, and you should try to never do a network call on load. You should only do a network call inside of a click handle. Um, as long as you're doing my my sort of threshold is about 500 to 1,000 things. As long as you're doing at most 500 to 1,000 things, it's not going to matter too much. And you don't want to do too many things on load either. I'd maybe be a little bit concerned about doing on load. But given that this is inside of a click handler, binding click handlers to like 5 events is basically nothing, right? Because we're not modifying the appearance, we're just binding click handlers. Um, so anything that modifies the appearance, if at all possible, you do not want to put that in JavaScript because just loading the JavaScript takes some time, and you're going to get a content jump if you are loading anything that modifies the appearance and modifying that on load from JavaScript. So on load, you want to keep everything very minimal, and you want to do as possible with HTML and CSS in terms of things that are going to happen on load. Okay, on click, you have a lot more freedom because the document's done loading. You everything's already there. It's only happening when the user requests it. And so it's not being piled on top of a bunch of other stuff to happen at the same time. So the real bottleneck is not necessarily what you're going to be doing, but the fact that whatever that you do has to happen on load after a ton of other tasks, including like loading all of the site JavaScript, right? So on load, you want to do almost nothing in JavaScript if possible. But I'm going to say that on load, if you're doing like under about 100 things on load, you're probably not having a huge effect. Although it depends a little bit on what you're doing, right? If you add a whole bunch of elements and you have to create the elements and you're doing that a bunch of times, it's going slower. If you're just adding a class and the class doesn't have big layout effects, it's not going to matter that much. Um, Anyway, how to know is honestly just refresh your page a bunch and do the events a bunch. If you can test on like an older laptop, or if you can test while you have like a bunch of stuff running on your computer, like a bunch of tabs open and like PyCharm and stuff, see if it's slow. If it's not slow, you're probably okay. But it's pretty hard to make unperformant JavaScript that does not do API calls as long as you're inside of a click handler. Um, so now that said, I'm not an expert in JavaScript. Like I would say that if I say something about cargo, it's probably true. If I say something about JavaScript, there's a good chance it's so. If you really have performance questions and you're very concerned about a very specific scenario, you should probably ask someone else. But as long as there's no network calls, you're most likely okay. As long as you're doing stuff in click. Does everyone understand like the difference when I'm saying like on load versus handler? Like this stuff doesn't happen on load, right? This happens inside of. This only happens when the user. So this on click and then putting a function here that's called a click handler, right? So you can do a lot more stuff once the user has interacted with the page because the performance isn't decided by a computer, it's decided by the person using the software. And if someone clicks something, they kind of might expect it to take a little bit longer. And if you have a network call, you can put like a loading spinner and something, and then getting that feedback. Like if there's a loading spinner and then the loading spinner lasts for 300 milliseconds, that's pretty fast. If nothing happens for 300 milliseconds, that's pretty slow. So even once you started getting into adding network calls to your stuff, there's still it's still like a UX question. Um, so this particular thing that we just wrote is having no performance impact at all. There's very little. Onload happens no matter what when the page loads. The click handler only happens if the user doesn't. Yes. Yeah. So you can also do stuff like when a user hovers something. If you want to do a hover template, you can do like on mouse enter, on mouse leave, and stuff like that. So do you guys want me to talk about how I do the custom image or the custom render images template? Or are you cool with just leaving like this? My voice is actually starting to go. So unless you really want, I missed Toast's question. I did totally. Okay, what would be a visually good way to remove the back tab in case an armor doesn't have a back render die, but is dyeable? For one single die or for all die? If you want to just gray it out depending on the color, that's going to be a little bit harder. But if you want to remove it altogether, I would just remove it from the list. Like I would remove back here. Um actually I might just remove those altogether. I might just do it like this and have the 4 dies. For all die. Yeah. Yeah. So I would just remove it and I would do it like this. And I think previously you had asked about what to do if there's no dies and it's only positions. Um you if you can make so there's a couple options. So one of them is that you can just roll like these are just normal tabs, right? Like there's nothing you can use Jira's built-in tabs in this case. But you can also use the custom tabs that we did here and just delete two of them. Um, and if you wanted to have like front and back and nothing else, that will also work. So if it's like only blue and there's no dyes, then you can also do it like this. But also, just FYI, like if you only have one type of tabs, you can use totally vanilla Druid tabs, no problem. So if you're doing like another type of info box, like um, just don't don't add the kind for that kind of info box, and you can use vanilla tabs if there's only one type of like everything we did today. The only reason it's difficult. Oh my god, where? There's so many tabs in this. Oh my god, I literally don't know what tab. Okay, so you can do this with Druid's vanilla tabs. There's like if you need to do that in another info box, you don't have to do all of this today. You can just write a list of tabs, and then it'll just be done for you by Druid. So it's only complicated when there's both positions and dies. If you need to remove both, don't you need to edit the JavaScript? No, if you need to remove both, you can just get rid of the tab. Uh, okay, so there's one more thing that I'm going to suggest, and my voice, I don't know if you can hear it, my voice is dying. Um, so if the colors, if this is guaranteed, right? If it's like if the tabs are always a subset of front, back, blue, red, green, gray, right? Okay, so I said we weren't going to use this template anymore, and that has been a lie ever since, but I didn't close it this time. Okay, so we can put this like that can go here, right? And then we can just, and then that'll apply to every single item. Oh, I didn't write tabs equals. So let's save this, and then it's still working, right? So because Druid combines the parameters, and then if we wanted to like delete them, then we could, and then it still works, right? Okay, that the extra parameters exist even if we're not using them. The only so the way that I set it up with having this code be inside of the content page instead of in the template is if something might have like yellow, orange, black, and purple, then you're going to need to set up this per page. Okay. If the set of colors is very different, but otherwise, and I mean even still like you can have a superset of stuff here. So like let's say that there's 5 dyes and each image has some random subset of 4 of the 5 dyes. So we could also write purple label equals file purple dye.png link equals, and then we could write purple class illustrated render color. Okay, and let's say that we just leave this forever. That's fine. It's okay if like nothing's gonna change here. So let me purge cache here. So nothing's gonna change because we did this. So it's still working. So we can put like a bunch of other unused parameters in the info box, and that's totally cool. So if like, and then you can say like blue, comma red, comma gray, comma purple if you wanted to, and it'll just work. So you can put like a large list of possible colors and possible sides here, and then whichever ones are specified in the tabs are the ones that are gonna. So, um, and then I'm sorry, I cannot. I really do think that it would be better to do this as a custom render images. Like I would put custom render images here, uh, and then like maybe like sides equals colors. Like I would rather do it like this than have all of this stuff here. And you can do that with 2 nested array map templates and a var define so that you know what to array map template over an inner array map template. And to some of you that was like, oh, obviously, and some of you are like, what? I can do that for you if you want it, but I can't talk you through it right now. I mean, maybe I could do that as like if people are very interested in seeing transform that to, sorry, I'm copying because I wrote it earlier. This class was okay. And if you wanted to see how we would go from here to here, if you're very interested in that transformation, I could do that as a wiki class, but I've got to stop talking. So I'm gonna leave you like this, and let me know if you're interested in learning how to do that. But I can set that up for the wiki, and then I'll either do it as a class or I'll just do it. So let me know about that. Thanks everyone so much for being here. It was a long class today. I love you guys for staying with me for so long. I hope you learned a lot about jQuery. It was a lot of fun to do the class today. I hope everything went smoothly and was good. And maybe a class about the template. Let me know if you're interested in a class about the template. And stop talking now. Oh my god.